Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Karen Hogaug. It's Hoghaug, and I live in Big Sky. I'm a retired attorney, and I taught U.S. government at the high school and collegiate level for over a decade. I am an ardent supporter of a convention of states. Today, I'd like to address 5 guardrails or checks that will keep the amendment process within the scope of the topics outlined in the application. These will prevent any so-called runaway convention from resulting in radical amendments that are outside of that scope. Number 1, Montana, each state controls their own delegates and gives them the authority. Each state directs their delegates, and then they can impose penalties for unfaithful delegates. If Montana's delegation were to consider something outside of the scope of the topics that were approved, serious consequences could result. In fact, today there's a bill being considered on the Senate side that would impose those restrictions on any unfaithful delegates. 2, at the convention, if a convention were held, any delegate who proposed something that was outside of the scope of those 3 topics, any other delegate could call a point of order and that proposal would fail. 3, in order to make it out of the convention as a proposed amendment, 26 state delegations would need to approve any proposed amendment. 4, 38 states. Okay, you heard Representative Clacken mention 38 states are needed to actually ratify any amendment. As you know, 38 states it's like herding cats, right? To get 38 states to approve anything is a high burden. And number 5, if any amendment were proposed that were outside of the scope of those 3 topics, lawsuits could be filed by state attorneys general, and the Supreme Court would find that that amendment failed because it was outside of the scope of the authority that was given to the convention. All of these checks create a very high bar for any amendment to meet to be properly ratified. To think that every single one of them would fail and we would end up with something crazy like repealing the First Amendment is a little bit absurd, especially when you've heard the consequences of what happens if we fail to act. Our federal government has far exceeded the authority given to it in the Constitution. According to the Declaration of Independence, when a government has engaged in a long train of abuses and usurpations, it is not only the people's right, it is their duty to overthrow such government. We're not asking you today for such radical action as overthrowing our government. We're only asking that you, Montana legislators, act within the scope of your authority to prevent continuing abuses and usurpations to the people that you represent. Thank you so much, and I encourage your support for HJ5.